this is not the year to skip Holy Week. And if you've never done Holy Week, this is the year to do it. And by that, I mean traveling from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday and stopping at all the places in between. Because if you are frustrated, if you are angry, if you are depressed, if you are despondent, if you are feeling helpless over everything that is happening in our country right now, Holy Week is exactly what you need. Let me just run you through it real quick. It starts with Palm Sunday, which celebrates Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem, which was the seat of power of the world he occupied at that time. And he came in not on a grand horse, not on a war horse, but on a lowly donkey. He came in to shouts of Hosanna, which literally means save us. The people gathered along the streets shouting, save us, in this peaceful procession, #protest against the empire. Palm Sunday is our reminder that hope very rarely looks like power. Then we go on to Table Turning Monday, which commemorates the day that Jesus goes into the temple and he finds the moneylenders there, aka loan sharks, who were preying on the most vulnerable when they had come to worship and to connect with God. And Jesus found this so offensive that this is one of the few times in Scripture that he absolutely loses it, loses his temper, turns over all the tables, gets out his whip, chases people out, calls them a brood of vipers. A reminder of who it was that angered Jesus the most. Table Turning Monday, and you will probably find a number of peaceful protests scheduled for this day in your community. It is a day when we are reminded that Jesus stood for justice and stood against injustice and those who would prey on the most vulnerable among us. Most churches don't do much on Tuesday or Wednesday, although Wednesday is often called Spy Wednesday, when we remember the day that Judas actually took the 30 pieces of silver in order to betray Jesus. And that is a reminder to us, for all of these people who spout this prosperity gospel and that God just wants us to be rich, it's a reminder to us that the only one of Jesus's disciples who ever made any money was the one who sold him out. And then we go on to Maundy Thursday. It's the Remembrance Thursday. It is the day that Jesus instituted the Last Supper. And we are reminded how much Jesus invites all of us to the table, because Jesus even invited the one that he already knew was going to betray him. What could we possibly do that is worse than that would cause Jesus to exclude us from the table? And the answer is absolutely nothing. We are all welcomed at the table of Jesus Christ. So churches all over will have services where they have communion. Some will do feet washing because Jesus did that. Don't let that keep you from going if you are not comfortable with that. Any church that does foot washing, it is always entirely optional. So nobody's going to make you wash your feet or wash anybody else's feet. However, it is a very powerful ritual. And if you've never done that, maybe consider engaging that at a church that includes that ritual in their Maundy Thursday service. And then, of course, we go on to Good Friday, which is the day that Jesus was crucified. And we remember what happened to Jesus, what Jesus went through, what Jesus lived through before he died. And it's a really hard day. It's a really hard service to go to and sit through, but it is so important to not skip over Good Friday before you go to Easter, because Easter is so much greater and more joyful and more meaningful when we have traveled through Good Friday first. So I encourage you not to skip Good Friday on your way to Easter. And then there's Holy Saturday. Unfortunately, this is a time when a lot of churches do Easter egg hunts, which, that's just the way life works. But let's remember that the very first Holy Saturday, they didn't know the rest of the story. We will never get how awful that day was because we already know. We know the rest of the story. Christ is risen. Jesus comes back for the dead, but they didn't know that. So if you are in a place where you think there is no hope, there is no way things can turn around, there is no way that we could come back from this, yeah, that's exactly how the people felt on that very first Holy Saturday. But then we get to Easter, where the impossible happens, where the unthinkable occurs, and Jesus is no longer in the tomb. Christ is risen. Y'all, it is a powerful, roller coaster of a week. And every stop along the way is something that we really need right now. So I encourage you to engage with your local congregations, to find places to walk through Holy Week with. If you're on my mailing list, you'll be getting things from me about how you can observe Holy Week throughout the week. But I highly encourage you to do this in community. If you don't already have one, to find a place that will walk with you through Holy Week. Because if there was ever a time that we needed the peace, the justice, the inclusion, the sorrow, the despondency, and then the hope of Holy Week, yeah, it's right now. Welcome to Holy Week, everyone. May it be a blessed and renewing journey for us all.